people into drones that they can program and unleash in the Middle East. That's the real goal. Okay? So it wasn't that the experiment failed, it was. ISIS is in the country disaster as much chaos as possible in the Middle East. Let me ask you this question. If you really wanted to get information from these terrorists, what's the best way to do that? Give them money. Be friends with them. Be nice to them. Figure out the dinner. Okay? We have lots of evidence to suggest that if you just be nice to people, they'll tell you anything else. You don't just torture them. You torture them, you can turn them into pure weapons, be unleashed in the world. Okay? Alright? So, 5,000 years ago, they were doing this with Pharaoh. And now they figure out how to do this to anyone using drugs, using torture, using ritual abuse. Okay? So all these ISIS fighters, they're robots controlled by the American military. They're drones, they're human drones used. Okay, why is this important? It's important because 5,000 years ago, trying to control the Pharaoh was first and foremost about social control. So there's a program called MK Ultra, started in the 1950s and 60s, led by a chemist called Sidney Goblet, okay? And the point of MK Ultra was to figure out how to brainwash people. And for the longest time, this was considered a conspiracy theory. But a few years ago, the CIA, the US government, they actually did this. But not today, okay? Did it before, but not today. Not today, okay? Yes. So if you're curious, there are lots of documents, government documents on the internet that you can use. Right? So the MK Ultra is a program designed to test effective drugs and brainwash
Che mogolico che so, boludo.
especially soldiers. So some of the documents are not public, and guys, just so you know, most of the documentation, most sensitive documentation was destroyed by the participants. So we only have a few of the documents. The some of the things that they were doing was brainwashing, okay, using drug hypnosis in order to control people's minds, okay, interrogation techniques. They were working with foreign intelligence officials to conduct mind control research. Okay, so the things you couldn't do in the United States legally, they're doing in Egypt, which created what, guys? By Al Qaeda. Okay? They were also doing things that were really weird. For example, they started a brothel. And so in the brothel, they use drugs. Okay? Like LSD. And they were trying to figure out how to control your mind. But they won't do this to most people, right? Okay, well, I'll show you later. You'll be surprised. Okay, so this is Sidney Goblet, and he was the man responsible for MK Ultra. And he's a chemist. Okay? So he's trying to figure out how to use these drugs to control the population. And you're like, well, this is just weird. And if you talk to experts, like, well, the MK Ultra results were terrible. But then ask yourself this: what is social media?
Informe de situación. El punto de inserción dimensional no era correcto. Llegamos tarde. Richtofen interrumpió la continuidad establecida. Lo que pasa después es incierto. Agentes aliados desaparecidos. No me queda otra opción que continuar la misión solo.
And the result of MK Ultra spread throughout society. Guys, good news. You're now the Pharaoh. Okay? Each and everyone you are now the Pharaoh. Congratulations. Something really funny about the politics is this. Why is this happening? Okay. You may not know this, but psychologists have been known for the greater propensity
Infestación
to have
confirmada.
mental illness than most
Identificación
people.
positiva de
Your
115 en la
psychologist
zona.
is literally
Como era
more
de
skilled in the
esperarse,
brain than
me
you are.
falla la memoria.
Right?
Incapaz de
They need
determinar
some
la
research.
cantidad actual de saltos hasta
And this is
esta
really
ubicación.
weird because
2 al menos, quizá más.
if you were a doctor, and the doctor was and unhealthy, that'd be problematic, right? Also, I've not met anyone who's gotten better psychologically after seeing psychology. You guys know, and I'm sure there are lots of people who benefited from seeing a psychologist, but I myself have never met anyone or seen anyone who benefits from seeing a psychologist. That's really weird because if you break your leg and you go to a doctor, and like for years and years your leg doesn't get better, well, that's a problem, right? Okay, so something people know. So, any questions?
¡Recarga gratis! ¡Oh, sí!
Questions, guys? So I know this is a
Después de
lot
fracasar en la
to take in,
obtención de los datos, se desconoce la ubicación
and
actual
we'll
de
be
los
explaining
sujetos
these
de
topics
pruebas.
as we move on.
¡Maldita sea,
But
Richtofen!
some
¿Por
key
qué siempre
takeaways
tienes que cagarla?
is all societies are first and foremost concerned with social control. And what's really interesting is we are, as human beings, have not changed in thousands of years. So that the way they were thinking of Pharaoh in Egypt 5,000 years ago, this is really the way that we control us today. And I'll show you how we discuss mass and mass media, and education, and technology. Okay. There's a question there.
Voy a acabar con todos y cada uno de ustedes, monstruos.
For example, right? Okay, that's a great question. Okay. So, if it's true that social media is a mechanism for social control, why are we controlled by our citizens who've made billions of dollars doing it, right? Okay, well, let me ask you this question. Who built the internet? You guys know who built the internet?
Para
U.S.
ustedes.
military, right? The internet is controlled by these cables that run around the globe. Who built all these cables? U.S. military. You think they would do it for free? Why would they do
Queremos
it?
seguir pasándolo en grande, necesitamos
So
munición.
Twitter, Facebook, that's the public space, okay? What people forget is behind Facebook and Twitter are all this infrastructure that's being controlled and set up by the U.S. military. So why would the military do it?
¡Duro con ellos! Acaban de subirnos el sueldo.
And again, this is a class about speculation, about theory, right? I'm not saying what's true. We're making questions and possibilities about what's really going on. Okay? And also, like, I don't know what they did in Egypt 5,000 years ago. I'm just speculating. It's just a theory. It's a nice theory, but I have no evidence that it's true. Okay? This is a disclaimer. Take what I say with a grain of salt. Be skeptical and doubtful of what I say.
Tiene mucho
Okay, any more
sabor.
questions?
Lástima que sepa a mierda.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'll see you guys next time.
Oh sí, esto sí que es bueno.
Something right for me. Okay, good afternoon, class. So, this will be the last class before the break because he is waking up. I hope that during these 3 weeks there is chance to reflect on what we've working to learn. When we come back, we'll continue to build on the ideas that we've learned so far. And so today, I want to talk about the meritocracy. Meritocracy means that people who succeed based on their talent, their ability and their hard work. And in theory, this sounds like a good idea. And in fact, the school system is built around the idea of a meritocracy. The good students go to that's the idea. But what I will show you today is that there actually lots of problems with the meritocracy. And what I'll also show you is that, in fact, this idea is actually destroying American society. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you why America has the world's most complicated admission system. And so in China, you find a university, you take a Gaokao, you take an examination, and then based on your test score, you get into university. And this is a system that most countries use. Only America is a system that's complicated. Your transcript matters, but so does your standardized test score, the SAT, the TOEFL, so does the extracurricular. So does student recognition level. And so does essays, in which you have to say to America, I'm a reading person. What matters is this person? Right? So it's a little more complicated and it's a system. So wherever it's built, it's the thing now you have the system. Okay. So we start off in England in the 1600s. And at this time in history in England, there's a major conflict between religious belief and the king. Okay? The king is head of the Anglican Church, which is the official church of England. And there's a difference between the Anglican Church and the Catholic Church. The only difference is the Catholic Church, the head is the Pope, and the Anglican Church, the head is the King of England. That's the only difference in terms of rituals, in terms of belief of the state. Now, there are people called Protestants who believe there should be no Pope, there should be no king. You should, as an individual, be able to access God directly. You do that by reading the Bible. So, at this time in history, there's a major conflict between the Protestants, the Puritans, or the dissenters, and the king, and it leads to war, basically. And so the solution is, the king says to the dissenters, hey, there's a new place called America. It's far away. Go in there, guys, and leave me alone. Okay, so the dissenters go as pilgrims to America to build their own theocracy, what they believe to be the new Jerusalem or paradise on earth. Now, one core belief of the Protestants is you must read the Bible in order to understand the mind of God. Therefore, education, literacy, learning, it is the divine imperative. That's why they established Harvard, okay? Harvard was a school designed to train people into the religion called ministry in order to study the Bible, in order to spread the truth of the Bible. Now, Harvard then would impose development of other universities, Yale, Princeton, okay? And practically, they would be known as the Ivy League. So this is how the Ivy League started, because America was founded as a religious colony, and everyone needed to read the Bible, so they needed places to study the Bible, and so they founded Harvard. And then Yale. But over time, as America became more wealthy, it became also less religious. And so the Ivy League became social clubs. And what I mean by that is, these were just places where the rich of America went to become friends. It was to build cohesion, right? Remember we discussed that with cohesion, where if you commit transgression, you become more cohesive. So these guys did not study. They drank, they dressed up like girls, they had 12 parties, they played football, they took risks. Okay? and they became good friends, and they went on to become the leaders of America. As America became much more diverse, much bigger, and much more wealthy, they recognized that they need to educate its population. And so it started state schools. Okay? State schools. What we call A&M. So you may have heard the term Texas A&M. Okay? It means Texas Agricultural Mixed. But these schools were built to train farmers, engineers, and soldiers. Okay? Train people in order to help grow the American economy. Now, and this system was extremely successful. America was able to industrialize really, really quickly. And most people went to these schools. Only the rich would go to the Ivy League because they were country clubs or social clubs. Over time, America, as began to industrialize more and more, it recognized that it needed science and technology. So it basically copied the best universities in Germany. Germany was at this time the main center of science and technology in the world. And so they built something called research universities. Okay? And a couple of the first research universities were Chicago University, the University of Chicago, and Johns Hopkins. Okay? So in the about 1900, you have this system, okay, of state schools where most people went. You're a poor person, you go and raise, and you go and get a job and make your money. If you want to be a professor or scientist, you went to research university. If you were rich, you went to the social clubs called the Ivy League. And quite honestly, it was a really good system. And America should have stayed with this system. But what happened was, who's unhappy now about the system?
As an online student, Carey wanted me to be involved in the various different programs that they offer graduate students, the communities that you can be a part of. And Carey actually offered a lot of networking opportunities. So even as an online student, Carey really.
These guys, right? Harvard Young Princeton, because if you think about it, over time, it becomes less and less relevant. Because just because you're rich doesn't mean you're smart. All the smart people are going to Chicago or Johns Hopkins. And so over time, we can expect Chicago and Johns Hopkins to overtake the Ivy League. Okay? And that's why Harvard decided to institute scholarship programs. So it wanted more smart people into its, it wanted to welcome more smart people into its campus, okay? And this created something called the SAT. Okay? This is the origin of the SAT. The SAT was founded as a scholarship program to identify the best and brightest students from all over America so that they could come to Harvard and help Harvard be the best university in the world. Okay? But now who's angry about the system? Harvard's not happy that the best students are going to Chicago and Johns Hopkins. So they quit the SAT. And now the best students are coming to Harvard. Now who's unhappy? The rich kids, right? Okay, the alumni, the legacies, because before their kids could just go to Harvard and have a great time. Now it's hard for them to get in, they have to take a test, but also they're in class with smarter people. Okay, so now Harvard has a problem. On one hand, it wants the best students in America, but on the other hand, it still wants to maintain good relations with its alumni. So that's why it created a new system. Okay? In this new system, grades are not the only factor. Test scores are not the only factor. Now it's focused on holistic. Okay, the new one is holistic. Basically, character. Just being smart is not good enough. You have to be a good person. You have to be a strong and brave and virtuous person. Okay, so they have a new concept called character. So this year was created to basically teach Jews out. Okay? Because Jews are really smart, but Jews like to read books. So they're not good at sports. And so, like, that's not good. You need people who are manly, who are strong, who are brave. You need white people. Okay? So they developed this holistic system. And that's why we have the system that we have today, where it's not just test scores, it's essays, it's transcript, it's ticket recommendation. You say you want to identify the Jews and keep them out, okay? Today, we have the system to identify both the Jews and the Asians, keep them out, yeah? Exactly. So all the information that you're looking at today is to identify your ethnicity, your,
Suelten los perros.
they really want to keep Asians out of Harvard, okay? It's
Esto me
that simple.
provoca
Right?
temblores.
But I'll explain more as we go along, okay? All right. So the purpose of all these changes is to ensure that Harvard remains the institution of power in America. Yeah, does that make sense? Harvard is not interested in academics, it's interested in power. Therefore, it must ensure that the people coming to Harvard are the ones who are most likely to succeed. And that's why it doesn't want all Asians. It wants a mix of people. Okay, I'll explain this later on. Okay. Now, in the interview system, there are two key concepts. The first key concept is the idea of secrecy. Okay? Secrecy just means like, I'll never tell you why I let you in or why I didn't let you in. I don't have to, okay? The other is the idea of discretion. Discretion means that I can choose to let in for no reason. Okay, so in China, you can read high score on the Gaokao, say down or Tsinghua, like win. Not in America. You can be the best in the world. They don't care. If they don't like you, they'll just say they don't want you. Okay? They have their own institutional reason to let you in, and they'll never tell you. Right? And the system was created to ensure that Harvard is able to recruit the best students in the world. So what's important for us to remember is, from Harvard's perspective, that just means the most likely to succeed, not necessarily the best academically oriented student, but the smartest student. Okay? So let's run a side script. Okay? Let's just say that you are a Harvard admissions officer, and you're presented with 4 students. Okay? You're Harvard, the best university in the world. Okay? And I give you 4 students. And you can let in 1 student. Okay? You tell me who you let in, and I'll tell you if you're a good admissions officer or not. Okay? Okay, the first is the best math genius from China. Okay? Everyone's like, no. All right. Second is the best basketball player in the world. Okay? Basketball player in America. Okay? Okay. The third is the best student in the world. And the fourth is 3 generations of Harvard. Okay? So your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather went to Harvard. Who do you let in? You guys know the system exactly, okay? You don't even think about it like I let in from a 4, okay? Because you know that in the world, he is the most likely to succeed. You're not interested in educating smart people. All you want to do is graduate rich people. Okay? So let's just say this guy doesn't exist. Then who let in? Exactly. Yep. This guy, okay? Definitely not this guy, okay? Definitely not the from China, because you know that he's trying to get as a math, right? Not professor. We don't want that. Okay? We don't want professors, we don't want lawyers, we don't want doctors. We want people who will be head of a company. We want people who will become a famous rock star. We want people who will become president of the United States. That's what we want, okay? And, yeah, so either one of these 2 is fine. No, okay? We want these guys to apply because that helps us look better, right? We want people to apply so we can reject them so that our metrics look better, okay? Okay? Does that make sense? Okay? That's how the system works. All right. So let me explain why they do this, okay? Why is the system set up like this? The best analogy for Harvard, Yale, and sorry, go ahead.
Like, does all the admission officers in college like do this?
Okay, that's a really good question. Okay, so if you're the Ivy League, you do this. Everyone's going to Ivy League. But if you're Harvard school, you're actually just trying to recruit students. Okay? So this is like a school, this is a mentality of mixed officers for elite schools. So most schools are just like, they want you to come in and pay the tuition. Okay?
So why the Yale?
Yeah, I'll explain later on. Okay? All right. So Harvard is first and foremost a venture capital firm. Okay, you're an investment firm. So let's pretend you are a venture
Más
capitalist. I give you two
munición,
options.
más
Okay?
destrucción.
And you tell me which option you take. Option one is I want to open a restaurant, and I need $1 million.
Pónganse en fila,
Okay?
babosas.
But guess what, guys? My uncle works for the government. So I can guarantee that he and his friends will come to our restaurant every single day. And so if we make this, no risk involved, I guarantee we'll make at least $500,000 a year. No risk, that's easy number, okay? Number two is also a website that affects AI and Bitcoin and all that, okay? Problem is, I don't know how to like code. I have experience writing through a website, and my idea isn't even fleshed out. If it works, we can make $1 billion, guys, okay? So, option one is low risk, really good plan, solid returns, $500,000 a year, okay? Option two is concept, big idea, I have no experience doing this, but we could probably make $1 billion. Okay? Which option do you take? You always take this, guys, okay? Right? Because, like, you don't need $500,000. That's boring. You want $1 billion. That's the mentality of Harvard. You understand? They want to take a risk on you. They don't want students who are solid and who become a success. That's boring, okay? They want crazy people who will change the world because that makes Harvard look good. Okay, another thing is they rather attract where 1,000 people succeed and 99 fail rather than 1,000 people succeed slightly. Does that make sense? Okay? Why? Because you only remember the 10 people who succeed. You can get everyone else. Okay? That's the Harvard mentality. And that's why they're the most famous university in the world. They're looking to create as much
Tengo cierta esperanza de que este Richtofen sea mejor que el anterior. Peor ya no puede ser.
Right? Does that make sense? All right. Now, how do you know if they succeed or not? If you're Harvard. Well, remember a concept we learned last class, which is dissociative personality disorder. And what we discussed last class is, in a game, people who are most likely to succeed is characteristics. Okay? And so, I'm saying why. Using myself as an example. Because I got an idea. Okay? So, what we're going to do is this. We're going to examine applications to Yale. And then we're going to check how the mission officers will succeed applications and how they would judge my potential. Okay? So, two things. The first is, on the application, ask me steps. Second is, they will examine my background. And third is, they will then judge my potential.
The career certificate helps me develop skills again my first job, but then it really served to be the foundation for the rest of my career. I was at a job for...
Okay. All right. So, my application. All right. So, I went to a public high school. It was good, but it's not a private high school. You get that,
Estas malditas máquinas estaban por todas partes. Francia, Brasil, hasta en la maldita luna. ¿Y eso por qué?
So, and I was like top 10 of 200 kids. So, it's good, but it's not number one. It's not number two. It's just top 10. And I was number 10. My SAT was 1,400 out of 1,600. And it's like decent, but you know, people are trying to get 1,550, 1,500 easier, right? So, not that great. I was on a soccer team. I was not athletic. The soccer team is teaching players, so I signed up, okay? I was also editor of the school newspaper. Okay? And I was captain of a crew
¿Me echan una mano?
called
Todo
Reach for the
mundo se
Cause.
puso cariñoso de más.
Okay? So that's a Canadian thing. But I was captain of it, I organized it. Okay? So
Está
these three
bien, bebé,
activities,
sé que me
they're
necesitas.
fine,
Ahora,
but
en
it
serio,
doesn't really
gracias.
demonstrate leadership
Ya me dabas
potential,
por
right?
muerto.
You're not like head of student government, or you're not head of Modern United Nations. Alright? On my essay, I wrote about Richard Feynman, who is a physicist, who's a really born expert. He was, I mean, like anyone could have written it. I mean, like ChatGPT could have written it, okay? It was just a bad essay. My teachers, I mean, they liked me, but they really didn't like me. Because I seemed aggressive to them. You know, I wanted great schools. So the word they use is ambitious. They thought I was ambitious. Ambitious is a dirty word in Canada. It means you don't play by the rules. It means you're too aggressive. It means you're too pushy, okay? Alright? So this is my application to Yale. As you can see, it is a decent, not a stellar application. So how did I get in? Well, because there was some information that they could also derive from the application that made them interested in. Okay? The first is that of form. So I put in a form in section B. I had to apply for a waiver for my application. Okay? So form because I was an immigrant. I was born in China in 1976. My family went over when I was 1980, in 1983 when I was 6. Okay? So as a poor immigrant, it
No, you don't have that. Yes, sir.
Edward, ¿qué estás haciendo? ¡Abre la puerta!
In Canada. I transferred high school, so I was in a poor high school.
¡Abre esta puerta ya!
Then I went to a rich high school. Okay, so basically I switched neighborhoods. My family lived in a poor neighborhood, and then I applied to go to a rich high school in a different neighborhood. So I had to take the subway there every day, and I spent like half an hour on the subway. And guess what, guys?
No tiene
Canadians
gracia.
don't like that. Okay? Canadians want you to stay where you are, and that's it. So when I told my high school principal that I was going to transfer high school, he got very upset. And he said that I'm going to write a discipline letter.
¿Dónde está?
And it's a very serious
Ese
thing.
asqueroso, apestoso,
And
inmundo
I'm going to
alemán.
folder
Estaba
so
aquí.
that
Ahora
when
se
you
fue.
apply to university,
Pagará
they
por lo
will
que
know
hizo.
that
Ya
you're
lo
Spanish
creo que
school.
pagará.
And like that's basically like a really bad thing. Okay? So I went this discipline letter. And when I went to rich high school, I had no friends. Why? Because they didn't like me. They didn't like it when something new comes in. Okay? I didn't know their culture. I'm sort of like ambitious, and I was grade grubbing. So the thing is, I was desperate because my family was very poor, and they wanted a better life. Okay. So again, they know all this. Okay. They know I'm a
Maldita confusión. Debo recordar mi misión. ¿Por qué estoy aquí? La máquina de guerra del enemigo debe ser destruida.
Clear from this information that I had dissociative personality disorder. Okay? What does that mean? It means desperate. Okay? Desperate means like, I'm not going to get
No toques nunca un ruso letal.
I couldn't breathe. There's a light example for me. So they see the desperation. They want that, okay? Second thing is, I was insecure. Okay? If you're an insecure person, it means just it means there's a void in your heart. Therefore, the way to fill insecurity is to achieve it. So, if I have $1 million, I will be happy. I will need to put up $2 million. If I make $10 million,
Debo encontrar una forma de sobrevivir a esta pesadilla. Quizá estas máquinas me ayuden a deshacerme de las malditas
so an
hordas.
insecure person sees the world as a competition. And you're always achieving, okay? And that's how you succeed. And the third thing is, I was not a formal person, okay? I was ready to break the rules in order to succeed, transgress it. And so I was supposed to do my formal school and then the risk factor. That's really a rule. It's actually legal, so you have to do that. And so,
Ahora es
the
casi
principle is I can
demasiado
do that.
fácil.
I can't screw up. I couldn't do it. I went to this high school, everyone said to me, you're welcome, and then I'm here. What we really did was, you have to get into the elite. I don't need to that. So they saw the desperation, they saw the insecurity, they saw the hunger and the immorality. And this is all part of the social personality disorder. And that's why they let me in. Because it's possible I go crazy, okay? It's possible I become depressed. It's also possible I change the world. Okay? Does that make sense? That's how they think. These are venture capital folks. They're looking for the riskiest investment, the best possible return. Looking for people who can become president of the United States, who can change the world, who can make a name for themselves. Because they do that, that makes deals look good. So you remember the name. Okay? It's all about brand name recognition. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. Okay. So you're like, okay, well, this is fine. And what's wrong with the system? Okay? Why would this be effective? If it works, why would it be because you know, organizations are so powerful, not only are they looking for people with trauma, okay, are traumatized as a child, but
¿Alguien le
they're
sobra
also
munición?
traumatizing the world. Okay? That makes sense. Right? So the meritocracy exists to find people with trauma, and because it exists, it's traumatizing the world. Okay, so let me explain how and why. Any questions so far?
El sabor es
This is all
fuerte,
clear. Yeah?
pero aún tengo el hedor de la sangre en la nariz. Con un fusil de precisión, todo es más limpio. No hay subfusil que no me guste.
Okay. All right. That's really the question. Okay. So one is college students, young students, current students, so famous. Okay. The reason why is when you do investment, you don't do all risky investments. Okay. You always have diversity in your portfolio. So the majority of students are still students who will be successful no matter what. Why? Because the standards are there. Okay. So if you want to go back to the example, right? So four, you let in the class, you come from two generations of college. And so the majority of students who get into college, and you let in, okay? So we create a legacy. These are the people who are the majority. Those are the big investors. And then you got like 1% of positions for people like me, who's like, really, well, there's potential there, so let's give it in. Okay? And quite honestly, it's a fallacy. Because it's all very discretionary. So So basically, it's all intuition. Okay, they don't have a formula for this. They just think this one is interesting. Let's just go in there. Okay? It's possible you, on an answer you saw something you interesting. I mean, it's like okay, let's get
trabajo es bueno
they
para
have
el
1% of positions available for risk. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so I'm not the average law student. I'm a marginalized law student. Okay? So this system, the meritocracy, the way it's set up, it creates trauma. Okay, so let me explain why. Let's look at university, Yale. Then we'll look at high school. Okay, then we'll look at parenting. Okay, so you think, oh, you're getting to Yale, you get told, you're happy, life is simple. Okay, the fact of the matter is that when you get to Yale, Yale is actually the Hunger Games. Have you read the book, The Hunger Games? It is a relentless competition. Because once you're in Yale, you're still competing. So now you're competing against the most best people in the world, okay? So maybe at the school, you're the best student. Your parents love you. You have lots of good friends. You have student government. You feel really good about yourself. You go to Yale, and then you recognize that you're a nobody. Your parents are far away. And you're in a competition with the best students from all around the world who all want to kill you. Because it's a zero-sum game, okay? Only the strongest survive. And so everywhere you go, it's a competition. And it's let's say seminar style, so you're a student, the professor is asking you questions, and you're all competing to impress the professor. Okay? Outside the classroom, you're competing to get into school and to the society. You're also competing for graduate school, for law school, medical school, for scholarship at the real college. So here, it sounds like once you get in there, from the first day, it is only pursuit of the competition, the competition, the competition. Wherever you go, you're being judged by someone, okay? You're being judged by the professor, or your classmates, and everyone's looking to like basically...
Este ruso está listo y ansioso por ver la
because
sangre.
it's a winner-take-all system, okay? So this is very traumatic, and it makes you very secure that you go through life in like it's just like all of these women who speak and speak in order to fill up themselves. I cannot stop working hard, otherwise I will be killed by the people. Okay? So students like to yell have a deep sense of insecurity, even those who come from the workers' family. Okay? They're always looking to exceed. And that's what Yale wants, that's what Harvard wants. Because these are people who want to success in life. Okay? Well, actually, $1 million, they want $1 billion. And then the $1 billion, they want $10 million. They can never stop. They want to get their skills. Every girl is trying to be bigger picture. So first up, they told me okay, so to get into Yale, you have to go for high school. And high school has to train you for Yale. So it's also a game. Okay? To train for high school, your parents have to have a different parenting system, okay? So I'll give you two examples of parenting, okay? The first system, which is the healthy system, you say to your child, I love you unconditionally. No matter what you do, I will support you. I will always be here for you. And if you say that to your child every day, your child will be fulfilled and secure in that. So the first part and the future. Now, you can also say to your child, I don't have time for you, but if you win the swimming competition, or you place first on your test, or if the teacher says you didn't like this about you, they'll take you for ice cream. And so it's a system that neglects
Solo un imbécil
the
beberría
child,
algo tan
but at the
horrible.
same time demands the child, okay? And this is trauma. And again, most kids will be traumatized by the system. But there's some kids who will thrive in the system. And the trauma will encourage them or drive them to exceed and exceed and exceed so that they get into Yale, so they can pick up on the other games, so we go in life and complete some more. Okay? And that's how the system is set up. It's what we call the meritocracy. And as I'll explain to you later on, it is destroying America and the world. Right? So that's how the system is set up. And guess what, guys? Is it different in China? Not really, okay? Alright? So the concept of meritocracy has conquered the world. It started in America. It actually started at Harvard, but now it's conquered the entire world. And that's why the world is so messed up.
So as you say, the idea of so many
Okay, so that's a really question. When I go there, you gotta take a and the answer is probably, okay? The reason why is the system is set up that you only have a choice, right? You want to put the fighting in the world, you explore, what are your options, right? So, before in America, there are opportunities for poor people to succeed. So, for example, George Washington, the first president of the United States, he was a college. If you had a Lincoln, he was Ivy League. These were two greatest presidents in American history. Unfortunately, today, if you look at the president, if you look at the top people, they all went to the elite school. Okay, so the system is set up so that you want to succeed, you have to do the Ivy League. But I got time to send my kids to the Ivy League. Okay, the last thing I would do is get into the competitive economic environment at the Ivy League. Okay? Does that make sense? Alright. Any more questions? So, thank you for your question. Any more questions before I move on? Okay. So let's do a PPT, and I'll explain to you how America is destroying the world. Okay, that's my meritocracy. Alright, so let's go. Okay. So, if you first, what you can see is this. In the year 1875, the best university in the world was actually not in America. They were in Germany. They were producing the most about 5 times. Second was France, followed by the UK, okay? And America was not existing. But because of its investment in research universities, it started to move up and up. And then it went to World War II, so now they support all the German scientists. And that's why it dominates today. The best universities in the world are now in America. They are in America, Harvard, Yale. Now, university is better and better. They're letting more students, okay? And as you can see, more and more American students are now going to college. Before the 1940s, it was only about 5% of all men who went to university. Today, it's almost it's 35%.
Esto es lo que comen los niños occidentales. No me extraña que estén tan flacos.
In postgraduate, Americans become a much more equal society, right? Well, the opposite.
Este ruso está listo para luchar.
America has become a much more unequal society. This is called the Gini coefficient, which measures inequality. As you can see,
Juguemos a buscar la granada bestia
20
infernal.
years, it's gone way up. It's among the highest in the world. In America right now, it's one of the most unequal societies in the world. Even though over a third of young people go to justice college. This is a graph of social mobility, okay? So the graph, the number shows you the number of people who are doing better in the current. As you can see, in the 1940s, most people are doing better than the current. But over time, it's doing better than the current. Okay?
Suministros para todos, al estilo soviético.
You will not do better than your current. Most of in income inequality has gone way up in the United States. The top 1% control most of the wealth in the United States, as you see from this map. So even though there's some work here, it's actually going to just the 1%. the same time, universities are becoming much more expensive. Okay? So this is leading to student debt. You can see how student debt, student loans have gone way up. So in America, student debt is the only type of debt that you can never ever get rid of. You can't just go bankruptcy. The debt is beginning with you buy it up. You got to have gone to your children. Okay? So this is kind of a situation for young people in America. This is actually more self-reliant, where the Western is far way up, but its wages stay pretty far. And it's leading to depression among teenagers. And also, the thing about this graph is the middle class and workers are much more likely to be depressed and identify as depressed than poor people. Right, so this is leading to a crisis in America. So what has happened?
Es un arma. Dispara balas. Entonces es suficiente para Nikolai.
President of Harvard for a couple of decades, and he was the person who was running the SEC in order to identify scholarship students. And he made Harvard into the best research university in America. Okay? And he was determined to make into the best university in the world, as well as an institution of power in America, meaning that he now decides who wins and who loses in America. So then he would help him against Terry Swanson, who's dean of Harvard, who was in charge of the scholarship program. Then he got a new job and a new organization called EPS. You know EPS because it's Education and Services. They're the ones who stand for the SAT, the TOEFL, the AP, the GRE. Okay? So these two together create the modern meritocracy. And as you can imagine, because you're both in Harvard, the entire system is set up to benefit Harvard. Okay? And guess what, guys? It works. Okay? So in the year 1940, 9% of applicants to Harvard got accepted. And now it's going way down to 5%. That is even lower. Okay? So now it's so hard to get to Harvard. At the same time, look at the Harvard. Don't give yourself a balance. The amount of money at Harvard is ridiculous. They don't have money the most country in the world. Right now, the endowments are $40 billion. Right? That's 40 years. The success of the Harvard alumni is incredible. The most billionaires in America. Harvard got more billionaires than any other place. Okay? 127 billionaires in 2024. Second is right? No one else comes close. But it's also anyone with over $100 million. Most of these guys are Harvard. Yeah? 10% of all, some percent of all people in America who have over $100 million net worth, that's from Harvard. Okay? And you have MIT, Stanford, Pennsylvania, Columbia, Yale, Cornell, Princeton.